Maestro.
When you find a program for your SGE, now what? Today, we are going to learn how to complete an application for your SGE. Turn to page 5 in your SGE handbook. First, we have a mini quiz. In 2 minutes, list every item that an application could ask. There's space on page 5 to write your answer where it says, what could an application include? As we announce the answers, give yourself a check mark for every answer you get correct. If we say something that you did not write down, write it down. An application could include an application form, teacher recommendation, list of activities and awards, counselor recommendation, transcript, references, an essay or written response, or financial aid form, a graded essay from one of your classes, a parent or guardian release form, application fee, a health form, interview, test scores such as ACT, TCAP, or EOCs, a resume, a school profile, You may have come up with something that we did not include. Raise your hand and share out any additional answers you come up with.
Before you start filling out applications, there are certain pieces of personal information that you must know. If you do not know this information, you could get held up while you are trying to apply. So put a check for the information that you know and write it down. If you are not sure, leave it unchecked and figure it out soon. You need to know your full legal name, including middle name, as it appears on your birth certificate. This is not necessarily what you prefer to be called, but what you are legally called. If an application asks for your nickname, it should be a nickname that is appropriate for a teacher to call you. So, for example, if your name is Antonio and all of your teachers and friends and your family call you Tony, then that is acceptable. Everyone will not have a nickname, so you can leave it blank if you don't. You should not put down nicknames like Pookie, Ray Ray, Lil Whatever. Make sure you know your home address, including the zip code. You also need to know an email address that is professional, and you must be able to log in. Your weighted cumulative GPA can be given to you by your advisor. This is the number that is calculated based on your final grade in each class. You will need a working phone number where you can be reached. Your social security number is a unique 9-digit code for you. It is important to know this number and have it written down in a safe place or even memorized when you get a chance. There are also a few questions that you will need to ask your parents, such as the highest level of education attained by your parents' occupations, and your estimated annual household income. Page 5 of your handbook includes important school information that an application could ask for, including our address, phone number, fax, school code, which is 431-522, and a counselor's contact information as well.
It's time for the shout out.
Let's turn to page 6 for an example of an application worksheet. Page 6 includes an example that is already filled out for you. You will need to complete an application worksheet, the thing you're looking at on page 6, every time you apply for a program. These application worksheets should be kept with your SGE handbook in the advisory tab of your binder. This is a good thing for you. This is a great thing for you. This will help you to be more organized and know what has to be done for the application at the very beginning of the process. On the application worksheet example that you're looking at, you can see that Carla, this is Carla Thomas, is applying to the Georgetown Summer Institute. Her official deadline for the application is April 15th. That's when Georgetown Summer Institute requires it to be turned in. But she has set a personal deadline of April 11th. Carla set a personal deadline 4 to 5 days prior to the real deadline because she's going to make sure that she's not stressed out when the application is due, and she's going to make sure that there's no way she forgets to complete the application and misses out on this huge opportunity. Carla has listed the program's website so she can find more information if she needs it. Then, Carla looked at the application and went through all of the possible requirements. She circled yes if it is required and no if it is not required. She also crossed out anything that is not required so that she can focus on what she has to get done. You will notice that Carla also included additional notes on her application worksheet form. She wrote which test scores she needs. So if you look, she circled yes for test scores, and she wrote that she needs all EOCs, that's all end of course scores, and her Explore scores, which is like the ACT test, but you take it in the 10th grade. She wrote which test scores she needs and who she's going to ask for teacher recommendations. she's going to ask Miss Olson, her chemistry teacher, and Mr. Nichols, her English teacher. At the bottom of the page, she wrote an additional task that her SGE required in the other section. If you look at the other section, Carla wrote that she needs to email a picture to the summer@georgetown.edu of herself. On the back, there is a place for you to plan so that procrastination does not stress you out or get in the way of you actually completing the application and missing out on this opportunity. Now you should be on page 7. The procrastination prevention. Numbers 1 through 10 should be completed in the order listed unless otherwise discussed with your advisor or counselor. So step 1 is decide to apply. At the bottom of page 7, Carla has listed out when she is going to do what. She has 3 different sections. 2 weeks before the personal deadline she set, 1 week before the personal deadline that she set, and the week of the deadline. She's using her prioritization skills well. The example shows that Carla is currently in the week of her deadline with just a few more tasks to complete before she's ready to press submit.
Every application will be a little bit different. Please turn to page 8 in your SGE handbook. We want to go over a little vocabulary for applications. A deadline versus a rolling deadline. If an application has a deadline, it is due on or before one specific date. If an application has a rolling deadline, it is due as soon as possible. They look at the first applications they receive and start filling up spots. An application versus registration. For an application, you must apply, get accepted, and then decide whether or not to participate. After you are accepted, you can work out the details before you accept the other offer. For a registration, you pay a fee. You are automatically accepted, and they expect that you will attend. You will need to work out the details before registering. Lastly, a recommendation versus a reference. A recommendation is a letter written for you and usually either mailed into a program or submitted online. A reference is a name you provide to a program or workplace so that they can call or email this person and obtain more information about you. Here's a tip, guys. Make sure that the person you are listing as a reference actually has something good to say about you. There are a few things that you will need to ask the cast, the college and alumni support team, or a teacher to prepare for your application. If you need a transcript or test scores, complete the rough drafts for any essays and have them reviewed by your advisor. Fill out the transcript or test scores request form and have your advisor sign it. Forms can be picked up in your advisory room. Submit the form to the cast office, room 223, at least 1 week before your personal deadline. An example is on page 9 of your handbook. You can see that Carla got her advisor's signature because she turned in rough drafts of her application. Then she requested both a transcript and test scores. She told the cast that she needs them scanned and emailed into her SGE. If you need a teacher recommendation, complete the rough drafts for any essays and have them reviewed by your advisor. Fill out a recommendation request form and have your advisor sign it. Forms can be picked up in your advisory room. Submit the form to your teacher at least 1 week before your personal deadline. An example is on page 10. You can see that Carla got her advisor's approval and then is ready to submit this recommendation request to Ms. Olson. She has told Ms. Olson that she needs to write a letter and scan and email the recommendation to the address provided. If you need a counselor recommendation, we will accept $20 each. Just kidding. Complete the rough drafts for any essays and have them reviewed by your advisor. Fill out a recommendation request form and have your advisor sign it. Forms can be picked up in your advisory room. Submit the form to the SGE submission bin in the CAST office, room 223, at least 1 week before the personal deadline. Sometimes throughout the application process, issues can occur or there can be an obstacle. First, discuss with your advisor any issues with your application or acceptance. Then, have your advisor fill out a red flag form. Either you or your advisor can submit it to the CAST office, room 223. Now you are ready to begin applying to programs. Start an application worksheet for any SGE that you find. In your advisory, you now have a folder with transcript, test score request forms, recommendation request forms, red flag forms, and application worksheets. Happy hunting.
It's time for the shout out.